out, man. Oh, wait. Georgia Bulldogs, man. Bulldogs, baby. I'm out. All right, y'all. What's up? What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. And this video is a little bit different because I'm trying to answer some questions about my Chinese bike build, my Elves Falath Pro. So the number one thing I get questions about is the geometry of this bike and like the bike fit. And I wanted to talk about that because I feel like it's something that people aren't really talking about. Some folks are kind of lost about it, or some folks just have genuine questions about it. I'm gonna start off by saying this, right? The data that's presented on the Elves website is accurate, right? That's what you want to start with, because I've had people saying like, "Hey, man, what's the top tube length?" Or what's this measurement, or what's that measurement? All that data that's on the website provided by Elves, that's accurate data, And sometimes people tell me like, "Well, the top tube seems a little short for this size." I know, I hear you, but the data is what it is, right? For folks that already have a bike, you already have a bike and you're considering buying the Falath, right? Get the geometry from your current bike. Get that geometry and compare it to the size of the Elves frame that you want. Start there, And that'll kind of get you in the ballpark as far as to compare the geometry to see if the bike is going to fit your needs, okay? The next thing is that, let's say you don't have a bike and this is your first bike and you're like, man, I don't even know where to start with that. Go down to your local bike shop, tell them, say, hey, I'm considering getting a bike. Is there like a bike fitting or some type of bike I could sit on to kind of give me an idea of what type of geometry it has? And then take that geometry and then compare it to the L's. I would say that's the best way to get started when you're trying to figure out the bike fit or what size bike that you want. Now, other things to consider too is like there's a bunch of different angles when it comes to calculating this bike fit, right? And I hate to say this, but a lot of it comes down to personal preference. And that's going to sound weird, but I mean, that's pretty much what, like with anything, you're going to have data that a company presents, and then people are going to feel a certain type of way about it, either good or bad. But a lot of it has to do with their personal preference. How do you want the bike to ride? How do you want the bike to feel? What type of rider are you, or what type of riding are you going to do, right? So, like a big thing is not only like the Elves Falath, right? And I'm talking about that one specifically because that's the one I have, right? I personally think the disc brake version would be a better bike. I think it just has more options over the rim brake. And then the Elves Falath Pro, the one I have, it's not UCI rated, right? And a lot of folks are talking about that. And then Elves is supposed to come out with a new Falath that's UCI approved. And a lot of folks are saying, well, I'm just going to wait for that frame set to come out and then I'm going to get that. So, for those that don't know, that new Elves is called the Falath Evo. It has been approved, UCI approved, and it just hasn't been released yet. It's supposed to come out, I want to say in um like March, April timeframe or something like that. And I want to say maybe like a day or two, they just released the geometry of the Falath Evo. Now, if you haven't seen the Falath Evo, dude, it's a dope looking bike. And when you see the bike, it looks fast. It looks fast, it looks super aggressive, and the geometry kind of confirms that. So, me personally, I'm like, man, would I want a Falath Evo? I kind of don't know, and I'm kind of thinking about it because I'm really looking at the geometry, and the geometry is kind of aggressive, man. But if you want an aero aggressive bike, then that's the bike for you. But another thing folks don't consider or they haven't looked at regarding this bike specifically, and then just like bike fit in general, and I never hear people talking about this, man. Bottom bracket placement. And when I say placement, either the bottom bracket drop or the bottom bracket height. Like as many times as I talk to people about bikes and geometry and bike fitting, I never hear people talking about the bottom bracket placement, right? And with that bottom bracket drop, whether it's low or whether it's high, it's going to change the way the bike feels, and it's going to change the way the bike rides. And what I mean by that is like, if the bottom bracket height or the bottom bracket placement is low, you're going to feel like you're sitting more into the bike. And when I say into the bike, that's a more like a lower to the ground, center of gravity. Like, imagine riding a four-wheeler, right? It's something tall, but then you ride like a go-kart. That go-kart is so low, you kind of feel like you're sitting on the ground, like you're into the go-kart. You know, that low bottom bracket height is probably going to give you a more feel like that. Now, with the bottom bracket placement or height being taller, you're going to feel higher, more like you're sitting on top of the bike. You know what I'm saying? So those are things to consider, or things that I've been considering when I've been looking at this Elves Falath Evo, and I'm like, yo, this bottom bracket placement is kind of low, so you're going to be like really into the bike. And like I said, it's going to come down to personal preference. If that's the bike feel and bike fit that you want, then that's going to be the bike for you. You know, other things to consider too, going back to the Elves Falath specifically, when you are measuring this geometry, right, you're going to have like your top tube length, you're going to have your stack, you're going to have your reach, you're going to have all that. Another things to consider is the front cockpit, right? When you are calculating your stem length and your reach, those things are numbers that provided to you, but you got to have all the data. So like with the one piece bar and stem that the elves come with, it comes with their one piece bar and stem called the Orome, and the stem links on there are standard links, but the reach on those handlebars, I want to say it's like 70. It's either 70 or 73, but that's almost like 10 millimeters shorter than a normal bar. Because you got to think like the S Works bars, the Tarmac bars, the Robo bars, a lot of the Zip bars, the Vision bars, all those bars have a reach of 80. So if you've been riding a bike currently, I would say more than likely your reach on your handlebar may be 80. So uh, if you get the Elves one piece bar and stem, man, the reach on their one piece bar and stem, I want to say it's like 70. I'll put it up here so you can see, but that's a 10 millimeter difference. So I had a guy give me a comment, and he was like, "Hey, why didn't you run the one piece bar and stem?" That's one of the reasons I didn't run the one piece bar and stem, because I didn't like a 70 reach on a bar. So that's a thing to consider when you calculating this distance and you getting your bike fit. Also, like the angles, and when I say angles, you got stem angle, right? And your stem could be like, a -6, a -10, a -12, -17, and those are kind of like the common stem angles. But then you also have the angle of the bike, like the head tube, right? And it could be like a 72, might be a 72.8, it might be a 73. And those things will change your reach on the bike, you know? And some of that data can be kind of confusing to add up, but there's a website that I use, and you just put the information in there and it'll calculate everything. I'm gonna do a whole separate video about that because it's too much to get into for this. But those are things to consider when you are working on your bike fit, man. So as stated before, I think the Elves Falath is a solid bike. Bang for buck, dude. You can't beat it. You cannot beat it. But when you are going into this bike and you're about to purchase your frame set, I want folks just to do a little bit more research to make sure they get the proper bike fit that they want. You know what I'm saying? And the things I mentioned are things I believe folks should consider when they're purchasing this. And the only reason I said it because I've been getting so many questions about my bike specifically. Folks are always asking me, like, "Hey man, what bar are you running? What stem length you running? Hey, can you measure this angle? Can you measure that angle?" And all that data is on their website, and then the additional data you're gonna be able to get from whatever bar and stem you choose to run. But like my specific data on my bike is kind of like how I set it up for me, and the way I set my bike up has a lot to do with my personal preference. Like I prefer a smaller frame and a longer reach, but that's me. Like my dad, he prefers a bigger frame and a shorter reach. So some of that's just like personal preference from that you just kind of get from riding for a little bit. And if you're kind of confused with that, like I said, if you already own a bike and you're riding a bike, get the geometry data from your current bike and then compare that to the frame size of the Elves Falath that you want, and you can start there with that data. And if you don't have a bike in general, I would highly recommend go down to your local bike shop and just tell them what you're trying to do. Tell them your journey. Hey, I'm looking at getting a bike. I'm not really sure what size to get, and I'm trying to figure out how do I fit into whichever geometry and kind of go from there. I think all that stuff will help folks out in this purchasing process, and you get you a good purchase. You'll be happy with your bike fit, your bike, and everything. If it's something that I've missed or something that you just want to know, you have a general question about, please send me a comment, man. I'm really good at getting back to folks, and if someone provides me like something thorough or they want something thorough, I really give them a thorough response, and I try to give some people some good feedback because I'm trying to help out the bike community, man. Because the biggest thing is just to get y'all on the bike, man, so we can all be out there riding. Also, man, if you've been liking the content, man, please like the videos, subscribe to the channel, Robb Armstrong. More content coming, more things to follow. And that's all I got for y'all, man. Oh, wait. Georgia Bulldogs, man. Go Dogs, baby. I'm out.
Robb Armstrong.